Good evening, gearheads, and welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City, where we talk mostly Formula One, but on Sunday night we spread our wings a bit and get more in depth and go across the wider world of motorsports. I'm John Massengill, and joining me is Jonathan Green, and he's joining me remotely. I'm in the studio. Jonathan, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How you?
I'm good. I've had a nice, relaxing weekend. Did a little more car stuff. Did a little more. Ordered some parts. You know, that's the hardest thing about working on your car at home, Greenie, is that you think of a cool project and you go out and you go, I don't have the parts for that. So I ordered a bunch of parts and got them on the way. Oil filters, O-rings, crush washers, all that kind of stuff. And I returned the air compressor that I bought from Home Depot because it was the loudest, most excruciating sound I've ever heard of
Can't have
any.
been worse than Formula E.
Yeah. Casey missed his cue. You should have queued him up for that. But
I
my
know.
God, it was horrible. I even measured the decibels on it because the nerd I am. It was like 96 decibels at 10 feet away. I was like, how could anyone use an air? You'd have to encase it in its own room or something. So I had to take that back. But anyway, lots of car stuff this weekend, just tinkering around the house. But we got lots to talk about on tonight's show, even though we're off season. We're going to talk about some lots of Formula One stories. We got the car launches coming up. We have an American who's leading, I almost said dominating the new season in the Formula Regional Oceania down in New Zealand,
Yep.
and we've got that to talk about, and lots more Formula One stuff. So I want to jump in with just some of the. Actually, I want to start with a local event that is coming up. It's February 6th, and it's called the Manual Focus Car Show. And it's more than just a car show. It's kind of cars and art. And the reason I want to bring it up because I know the guys that are running this thing, and they put together my favorite car show in Austin, the one that I always talk about, Jonathan. And I call them a car show. It's really just a gathering of gearheads, but they do such a great job, and they've somehow just curated and distilled down this perfect show. And it's more than anything, it's about the people. I've met the most interesting people that go to this thing. So, but they're having this manual focus.
Does it focus on manual cars?
No, that's kind of how the thing. It was kind of a play on words, but
Right.
they're definitely focused on cars in general, like and car art and that kind of thing. But they're doing their biggest event of the type. They've done them before, but this one's February 6th and 7th. So it's Friday and Saturday in February coming up. And I think it's Manual Focus. It's
Where at?
manualfocusshow.com. And they're going to do it in this at this place in East Austin. It's just a venue. You know how many tons of venues there are in Austin now?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's not a giant place. Where is it? Let's see if it says here. I'm on their website, but I've looked at the pictures and it looks great. It looks like a great place to host the event. So it's called the Distribution Hall on East 4th Street. So really cool event. And if you check it
Yeah.
out, I mean, I know lots of people that are coming in from out of town. People come from Dallas and Houston to it. So it's a pretty cool show. So I want to talk about
Car
that.
and art show. It looks fun.
Yep. So let's jump in with the story that we alluded to. As predicted last week, we talked about
Yeah.
the Cadillac story because they were teasing it out there. Zhou Guanyu joins Cadillac as their reserve driver. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, good choice in a couple of ways. The experience. So now they've got three drivers plus Colton, who have huge experience in terms of Guangzhou was obviously a Ferrari Academy driver, then went to Sauber, so he's done a full season with Sauber. He's also worked with Bottas before. I don't know how relevant it is to Cadillac for the Chinese market, but you've got to think that that's part of the consideration. Do GM sell heavily in America? In China. You were
they
telling
do.
me the electric side of it could be huge.
Yeah, they do. They sell a huge number of cars in China and electric. I'm assuming electric is big for GM because electric's huge in China. So, but I think it's a big part of the reason. I don't know how much of that, but I think it's significant.
Well, I've got to know Joe because he did the New Zealand series a few years ago, and he's a lovely kid, nice guy, well spoken, very marketable. you know, it's interesting. You know, we focused on, you know, obviously what Red Bull's up and downs with their drivers because it's the big teams, and that's been the most upheaval. But when you think about Joe and Drogovic and Schumacher, you know, they're all good drivers, and some of them get lost in the fray. So I'm glad he's sort of kept hold, and I think obviously he brings money, but not the GM need money, but it keeps him involved, and he's got the experience to add to the team.
Yep. And like you said, he was with Ferrari and he brings that experience because obviously for Cadillac's going to be using the Ferrari power unit. So,
Yeah.
and the gearbox actually. So, yeah, that's good. But that was not a big surprise to me. I think we had already predicted that. The other news story of the week, Audi has put their car on track for the very first time. And there wasn't a whole lot of coverage on that,
Yeah.
except for the fake news about that. Did you see that?
No, you put it in the stories, but what were people making up stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. There was some fake, low quality still images circulating online, claiming to show the car, and it just didn't look right when I first saw it. I was like, I really kind of ignored it, but because I didn't really think much of it. But they looked grainy and had weird details, and turns out they were just completely AI generated. And a couple of news outlets, I don't even know which ones, ran with them and were trying to analyze them and stuff, but yeah, it was
Well,
not
don't
real.
think you've missed anything because their official launch is in Berlin on January 20th.
Yeah.
So a week or so from now.
But Hulkenberg and Bortoleto got behind the wheel. So, I mean, I think it was
Good.
basically a filming day. You know how they do that.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So that's happened this week. So that was also a news story. But what sounds like the biggest news story is the details of the 2026 qualifying format changes for 26 for both Grand Prix and sprints was announced. But honestly, it was really more like clickbait because really all they're saying is there's 22 cars now.
So you got
So
to change it.
so you have to, right? Instead of, the five slowest cars eliminated in Q1, you got the
It's a
six
six.
slowest cars, and the same thing in Q2.
Yeah.
So and they did not change the times. It's still 18, 15, 12, Q1, Q2, Q3.
Yeah. So really, in that respect, competition-wise, nothing's changed.
Exactly.
But so be it. But the same is true of the sprint race. That's also had a reduction in time,
Yeah.
12 minutes, 10 and 8.
Yeah.
And you still obviously got your 6, 6 and 10.
Yeah. I guess the most exciting thing when you think about this story at all is just the fact that it's Cadillac is the team that's bringing those two cars. And I said it earlier, a couple of shows back. We're going to talk a lot about Cadillac, and we are going to talk more about them because obviously with Zhou Guanyu.
I reckon. Oh yeah, here's my outrageous comment for the day. I think Cadillac will get one of their drivers into Q2, if not Q3,
Okay, how soon?
in Australia.
Oh wow, right off the bat. Okay, well that would
Well,
be
listen, it's an open door for everybody. It's a new car, it's a new thing, and
new set of rules.
Bottas and
That's right.
Perez. Uh,
Hey, that would remind me of Haas, right?
yeah, remember how they jumped into the scene? Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
yeah,
I think that's a wishful thinking rather than a.
yeah. Well, here's another Cadillac story for you because there's a podcast. I actually listened to a little bit of this podcast. It's the Autocar. Make sure I get the name right. Give them credit for it, but it's the Autocar podcast. I think it's a UK based podcast, and they had Pat Simmons on, and
Oh yeah.
it's called the Autocar podcast, and I was when I first turned it on, it was very British and boring sounding, to be honest with you. But I had it just playing in the car when I was out running some errands.
Brilliant!
No, that's the right word, but the wrong enthusiasm because it was like, oh, y'all could go to sleep to this. But it was pretty fascinating with hearing Pat Simmons' history going all the way back to the 1970s when he got his start, which is I think has been a little bit of the knock on Cadillac hiring him. But the fact that the things that he said in there that struck me, they were interesting because he said that within a few years, the intent is to have almost all the key manufacturing of Cadillac's F1 cars happening out of the United States bases. Because as we
That's
know,
pretty cool.
yeah, they're not starting off that way.
Right.
And it's a couple other things he talked about. He said that the hiring is just a little bit behind for the team, and he said the hiring because the UK hiring has been slower than the US hiring, and he said it's a cultural thing. He said because the UK, like the notices that you give in the UK apparently are longer than the traditional 2-week notice here in the United States. Does that ring true to you?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's like 3 months actually.
Wow, that is very
Yeah.
different from 2 weeks.
I think it's a sort of I think it's a labor law whereby that you can go. It gives you enough time to search for another job if you're let go or the company goes into liquidation or something. And also, I suppose it's just a sort of fairness rule, really. 2 weeks is, pretty brutal, but that's America.
Yeah, well, as we know, they are hiring for the GM facilities in Fishers, where the big brand new facility is being built, and the power unit that team has a brand new facility near Concord, North Carolina, and they also are hiring for GM's technical center in Warren, Michigan, is helping get it all off the ground. So multiple,
I'll tell you one question I would have if I was.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just one question I would have if I were Graham Loudon from Cadillac would be, how does it work for us when Haas has their own offices at Maranello, while obviously Cadillac doesn't?
Yeah, good point. We need to get Graham and ask him that. I'll talk to
I
him
mean, there's
one
nothing
time.
they can do about it, but it's an interesting fact, isn't it? That
Hmm.
obviously Haas has tied itself over the years closely to Ferrari.
Well, obviously, what they're talking about building their own power unit and being very serious about it. So I think that becomes less and less of an issue. Um,
Yeah, GM had to do that. There's no credibility otherwise, especially with Ford coming in.
yeah, yeah. I just thought it was a good story. All right, well, let's sneak a quick break in real quick, and when we come back, we got a nice little topic. We're going to talk about 10 big questions leading into this year in our new season of Formula One. Back after this. All right, checking YouTube. I don't know how many times I'm going to say next year when referring to this year. All
Hmm.
right, we got a handful of folks in here. Let's see what's going on. See if we got any comments going. David Lawrence is here. Kevin Kelly is here. Andy P is here early on. And let's see who else.
Why don't we do a show where they all come on Zoom and we do a multiple show?
We've talked about that. You and I have about a year ago, but we should
Yeah,
do something like
fun.
that. Yep. We should do it kind of a Patreon kind of style, which I've thought about doing. Yeah. What do you guys think about that? We form a Patreon group and
What's a Patreon
oh,
group?
it's just a platform that a lot of creators use to engage with their audiences. And it just gives
Okay.
you a platform to do it. All right, here we go. Come back.
Okay.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, during the break, we were talking about maybe engaging with our YouTube audience and anybody else that wants to a little further and doing a Patreon group. And Greeny, the consensus on YouTube is David Lawrence says, I would love that, all caps. And Kevin Kelly says, Zoom can do. Andy P, I would be totally into something like that with an exclamation.
There you go.
And David Lawrence says, take my money. There you go. We haven't given them the pricing yet, Johnny. So
All right. Okay.
let's see how they react when we drop the pricing. All right, we're going to talk, as promised, we're going to talk about just a cool topic. And this was inspired by an article, Jonathan, you saw on crash.net and
Yeah.
from Lewis Larkam, just 10 huge questions leading into F1's biggest rule change ever. we're gonna
And they are pretty good.
Yeah, and we'll just use his 10 list as a format for us to discuss, and almost kind of a lightning round kind of thing, because we could spend a segment per topic. But let's just run down these, Jonathan, and I'll.
Yeah. So YouTubers grab your answers as well.
Yeah. So the first question is: can Lando Norris defend his crown? Go, Jonathan.
Yes.
Green. Okay.
Yes.
Next.
I think it's going to be actually harder because of the new rules, where everybody's getting used to it, including him. And honestly, you cannot predict that McLaren are going to have the same, lead or domination car-wise. So he can, but it depends on who picks up the rules best.
Yep. I think you're absolutely right. I think I thought about the head start you get when you're a 2 consecutive constructor champion in a row, like McLaren is going into a new season. Now, the drivers' battle probably kept them from moving on to developing the new car a little bit, but don't you agree they probably have a bit of a head start?
Who, McLaren?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, one of the big headlines this week has been that Ferrari, the sort of the morale at Ferrari fell away, not only due to Hamilton's horrible season, but also they stopped developing their car earlier than most, and so you could argue that they should, given that, come out on top. But who am I?
All right. Well, we'll check it out and see. And what the heck? I'll check in with the YouTubers. Anybody? David Lawrence says, if McLaren is on it, then yes.
Yeah.
And Andy P says, yes. Andy.
There you go.
Very car dependent, but the team is set up for long-term success.
I'll tell you what, the next question is a better one for our team.
Okay. It says, will McLaren continue to use papaya rules? Ooh, that is a much better one for the team. Oh, I want to hear Andy's response on that, and David, everybody. So what's yours, Grady?
Officially and to the outside world, yes, because they don't want to appear that they kind of,
messed up.
Just about got it right last year.
Just about got it wrong.
And I actually think that it will be a lot harder this year for 2 reasons. 1, the new rules, and 2, I think obviously Piastri knows why he lost it, and it's nobody's fault but his own. But he also didn't get, the Monza thing, etc. I think it would be harder to do a Monza next year, given that Lando's won a title and Piastri has come so close. And if it gets tight again, I think the gloves will be more off than they were this year.
Okay. Let's see what the boys and team are saying. David Lawrence in his Michael Scott voice. No, please God, no. Andy P, let's see. He's saying they will be free to race early on.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, David talking about MasterCard money coming too. That's good. Good point. Kevin Kelly says, like I said, depends on Merck getting it right. Well, I would tend to agree with what you said, Jonathan, is that I think that they said this worked, but barely. So maybe they're going to modify it, or maybe even set up some more rules about hey, if somebody gets ahead or whatever. So
yeah, and if I was Mark Webber, and his experience, he had the same sort of second man syndrome. I'm sure he will be fighting the corner of Oscar before the season even starts. Once you're in that season, and he really didn't have anything to say, because Zach kept saying, "No, it's fair, they can race," So there was really no argument at that point. And Baku, nobody got in his way. He had 3 terrible 2 crashes and 1 jump start. Well, again, that's nothing to do with McLaren.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Mercedes, the early favorites? Question mark. Greeny, you go first.
My answer, yes. Obviously, the Mercedes engine won the championship, and George Russell did a pretty handy job in the factory one, and Antonelli likewise. So you'd have to say, given that there's another Mercedes engine team, that's Alpine, on the grid next year, they've got the most engines to supply Formula One. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be dominant, but it means that they've got customers to satisfy. Their customers won it last year in the hands of McLaren, and handily so. Very few mishappens or, if any, malfunctions to the engine side. So, yeah, that's a fair assumption. And in fact, it's a comment that's been made almost halfway through this season that Mercedes would be favourite for the 26 season. I think it was Adrian Newey who said it will be an engine-led, power unit-led 2026.
Mm-hmm. I am not nearly as confident in that quick answer that you gave. You didn't say you were overly confident in it, but I think that if I had to choose right now, if I were going to Vegas, I would be betting on McLaren ahead of Mercedes, just because.
But that's Mercedes.
Well, he's saying the team.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading it sort of. Yeah, will Mercedes as an engine win?
Oh, well,
you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've
misinterpreted. I think Mercedes as an engine manufacturer will beat the other manufacturers.
I would agree with that. But Mercedes as a team, I don't know. After seeing the way they got lost in their car development during this downforce era, I just don't have the confidence there. Now, I could easily eat those words because if they get the power unit right, like you said, this is going to be a very heavy power unit. New set of rules. Let's see what the guys are saying. Kevin Kelly, engines, baby. Yep. Andy P says the same thing I'm saying. Not sure about the aero side. That remains to be seen. And David says, from the engine standpoint, yes, the team, not quite. Call me in May. Yeah. Okay, good. We're all on the same
I would
page.
say this. It's high time for George to mount a proper championship fight. Not that he hasn't before, but I just felt that he was driving as good as anybody towards the end of last year, but he didn't have the equipment compared to McLaren or, to a certain extent, the last few races of Red Bull. Obviously, they won 5 out of 7. So, I think George last won in Singapore, I want to say. But, I think if he could get a good start to the season, and he and Antonelli will definitely be up there. Antonelli will be a great support to George Russell, though I don't think he's ready yet to win a title himself. But I think George could mount a really good title fight if they're close, which they were at the end of last season, but they hadn't got the time to catch up.
I'll tell you what, Antonelli, I think this last season was a perfect season for him. And here's why I say that. They were never gonna dominate in that car, right? So Antonelli had, he had essentially, I was going to say a confidence crisis, but I'm not sure that's what it was exactly. But remember when Toto Wolff, at the beginning of the season was defending him, when he went off track, oh, that's fine, it's okay. But at mid-season, he really got down on his driver. I've forgotten the quote exactly. Maybe it'll come to me, but he was really giving him a hard time, essentially. And then from the race after that on, Antonelli got better and better as the season went on. And I was thinking about the driver pairings. I know we've had that discussion also, but Russell and Antonelli is a strong driver pairing. And I'd say, in my mind, second, depending on how Lewis Hamilton does this year in Ferrari, maybe second to McLaren. So,
as the Italians would say, there's a simpatico there. There's no question. Antonelli's bedded himself in. He knows he's the junior driver. And he also knows that he's expected to out-qualify and sometimes beat George Russell. But George Russell is the leader of the team, and I think he's magnanimous enough to not overly help Antonelli, but I think they'll work together well, perhaps more so than a Hamilton and a Leclerc, let's say, who, will probably go around the same problem in different ways. Whereas you see I would see a conducive fight by Mercedes with both drivers playing their part.
Okay, next question. Will Max Verstappen stay through the end of his contract, through the end of 2028 with Red Bull?
No.
Ooh, I like that. So when and where?
End of 26, he will assess what's happened, uh, and whether he wins the title or whether he doesn't win the title. He will know then where the jumping off point is and who's going to be the strongest team in 27. And that's why I say it's going to be before 28, or is it 30 that his contract does
28.
end? 28. And the obvious place he would look would be to Aston Martin if they move forward as we expect. That would mean returning to work with Adrian Newey. It would return working with Honda. You've seen the success they've had. Um, and there are other options. Could be Ferrari. Hamilton may by then, be done. Leclerc may be ready to jump ship by then. And you could see either Norris or Piastri being poached out of McLaren, which would then give a seat open there. And that could be if they let's say Piastri wins the title next year. Well, does that give Verstappen a chance to join that team? There's a lot going on.
Okay, I am going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you. You got Red Bull with a brand new power unit. We don't know. I mean, I've got a story in here talking about Honda. They're excited about it, but the expectations are tempered. Excuse me, Honda. Red Bull powertrains with Ford, their expectations are tempered. Laurent Mekies is saying, hey, we don't know how this is going to go. So we shall see. All right, next one is, can Isaac Hadjar break the Red Bull curse? First of all, which Red Bull curse?
Answer, yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Reason being, he knows what he's up against. I think with helmet gone, the expectations will narrow a little bit. It won't be as pushy. I think Isaac is temperamental, but also a man on his own. He's been there long enough. He's seen what's happened to Lawson. He's seen what's happened to Sonoda. I don't think Red Bull will demand that he's within a tenth of Verstappen, though he must be a good team player who can score points on his day. And I think because of the new rules and because of the way the previous car was designed absolutely around Max, I think there is more chance that Hadjar will be closer than any of the others just because it's a different car. Now, we're already told it's a car that would actually suit Max. It's going to be twitchy, it's going to be more nimble, it's going to be lighter, thinner, and so on. So you could actually see Max in his heyday, but I think Hadjar will play a role, and I do expect that if they come out of the blocks and all is working with Ford, then they've got a good chance of competing for the title, and I think Hadjar will be in the top 4.
I can't wait to have Casey clip up all these answers, good and bad, as the season progresses. Let's get a quick break in. We're going to continue this. We're also going to talk about a topic, why I think Apple could grow the sport, not hurt it, moving away from ESPN. Back after these messages. All right, let's see. Ooh, David says that Max, hot take, Max, if he hasn't won by the summer break, he'll announce his departure in September. Ooh, I like it. Andy P says, yes, I think he stays. Red Bull made a concerted effort to get rid of the distractions. And the only question, did the brain drain, that's continuing, by the way, we'll talk about that, Andy. The brain drain did too much to hurt that team. Kevin Kelly.
The McLaren story?
Yeah. Honda says, Kevin Kelly says, Honda says they are off the engine pace also. Yeah, KK, that's exactly what was in my head a while ago. I kind of got confused because they're both saying the same thing. Let's see. Andy says on number 5, yes, again, a new Red Bull. This would be a test, though. Talking about David's talking about Hadjar. Yes and no. I think he will get more time but outperform Max like Danny Rick did. That would be amazing if he could do what you guys are talking about. If he could even come close to what Daniel Ricciardo did, because. All right, here we go. Come back.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, we're going to get to the Apple TV story that I threw out there in a second, but we're going to continue this. We're down to number 6 here. Jonathan, where will Ferrari be in 2026?
Either high as a kite at Monza or down in the doldrums in Sicily. I don't know. Nobody does. I do think that, like what I said earlier about them transferring earlier to the new car will help. But there hasn't been a huge, they haven't brought anybody special on. And it worries me because Ferrari didn't move ahead at all. But, you get the impression listening to Fred Vasseur that this was a write-off year in many ways. And truly that is the case because all right, besides Hamilton's sprint race, they really had no love. They had no great results. And so, it's really hard to predict. But Ferrari have the money and they have the drivers. Their technical department just needs to give them the car. They're not that far away. So it's possible, but I still couldn't be too conclusive on that.
I know it kills me sometimes to think about where Charles Leclerc really could be right now in his career.
Well, he's the one I'm expected to jump ship before Verstappen if they get another car that just isn't worthy of him.
Okay, along those same lines, number 7, could Lewis Hamilton retire?
If he has another year like this, yes.
I think so too. I mean, what was he saying at the middle of the season? I shouldn't even be in the car. You need to find a new driver.
Yeah.
So, all right,
I mean, he's not going to go to another team.
Yeah.
He's not going to go back to Mercedes, in my opinion. Unless the only thing that would send him back to Mercedes is if George Russell was poached and they had a championship-winning car.
Yeah, that would be a crazy twist. All right, number 8, can Aston Martin become winners?
Yes.
I have 2 words
Don't
for
think
you.
it'll happen that often.
Adrian Newey.
Yeah, I think honestly the timing, the people, the wherewithal, this is their chance to shine. Adrian's been there almost the best part of 2 years now, watching in the wings, waiting, designing, and more importantly, focusing on this 26 car. And I think that's gonna, and they've got the best engine. So, I say the best engine. They've got a equally good engine in the Honda. They won 8 races this year, more than Lando.
Yeah. I'm not. It's hard to count out Honda, isn't it, on a powertrain side? I mean, I know they had a drought there back when McLaren was dumping them, but yeah. All right, next question. This is one you already answered in a way. You did. Well, how will Cadillac get on?
I think better than people expect. I think they too have had the time to prepare for this set of rules while everybody else is distracted looking at winning or competing in 2025 and 24. So Cadillac have been zoned in. They've had their people on board for quite some time now, and they've got their dream team of drivers. That includes, when you think about it, it includes 6 drivers in total. You've got your 2 race drivers in Bottas and Perez. You've got Herta as your reserve driver and Formula 2 driver. And then you've got Guanyu Zhou. And then you've got 3 sim drivers in Charlie Eastwood, Fittipaldi, and Simon Pagenaud.
Yeah. Those
are 6 great drivers.
That is an amazing driver lineup, isn't it? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it, putting them all together like that. That's pretty cool.
Well, all those brains will be working on one, on 2 cars for that weekend.
I can't even make a prediction because I just know that they will get there. If you said, how will they get on 2026? I don't know. But will they get there? I think they will get there.
To answer your question, they'll be fighting Haas for last place, I think, because Alpine should move forward. And I say last place. Haas, that's unfair on Haas because they had a good season.
Yeah.
But I do.
And they got Toyota now.
Right, and they've got Toyota on board. So I think those guys will be having a mid to lower mid field battle.
Yeah. Well, okay. This isn't even on the list, but in that same discussion, what about Audi, the new Audi team? They were 9th last year behind Alpine.
Yeah, I would put them in that. Yeah, I would put them in the same category for the same reasons. They too have a great strong lineup. They too have had time to get ready. They've had Binotto on board and several other top people. So yeah, they're going to be strong. They're going to be very strong.
Let me check in with the guys on YouTube. David Lawrence says, talking about Lewis Hamilton retiring, says, I think it's time either way. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that right now. I want to see if they can get the car right and if he can have another year under his belt. And I was thinking about this recently, where Hamilton was saying that there was rumor that he was trying to bring the team out of some of their old ways into different methods. Maybe that could play into it too. So if Andy P says if Ferrari get it wrong, Lewis will walk away, same thing you said. And David backs that up with Hamilton. He's a Hamilton fanboy. So there you go. All right, let's see. The last question. Will the racing be better? Jonathan?
Ha ha ha! I'll take a pee, please, Bob.
There you go, Casey.
God, I hate it when that clock's ringing. Should be is my answer. Final answer. Well, yeah. Should be.
Final answer should be. You have to answer that in the form of a question. I'm sorry, that's wrong.
Will boost, overdrive, overtake, and wandering 3 work? It's my question.
I'm going to say, if I were betting again, I'm going to say it won't be, because there's so much change. Again, like I was saying about Cadillac, maybe not 26, but after that, I think it will be. So it's going to be just crazy fun to watch this, though, isn't it? To see what happens.
Yeah. And like I said, what I'm most interested in is that there's a lot more swage towards the driver and his engineer in terms of decision making on when to use the tools.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go to this Apple discussion that I brought up, and the statement that I said is that I think Apple will grow the sport and not hurt it, because there's been a lot of worry, and when you check in on the internet, people say, "Well, I ain't getting another dang subscription. I'm not paying for that." Apple TV, but. And I also, for most people, you're paying for ESPN whether you know it or not, because if you've got YouTube TV or whatever and it's there, it's part of the cost. And YouTube TV keeps going up, as I know, because I have it. It's gone up every year, or about every other year since I've had it. But I think they're going to do better, because I think not just the changing landscape of television and streaming, but I think the technology and the brains behind Formula One and Apple and all of the data that Apple has is going to accelerate the sport. I want to think about like this, Jonathan. So Apple has all the data, and Apple has also said that they're going to do something that has not been done by most streaming, when they take over a sport. Like when Apple took over MLS, they didn't do this, but they are going to have this stream 4 to 5 races for free to non-subscribers, and they'll have the data to point people to that, right? They're going to know what data people, who's engaging with F1 content and all this stuff. And so I just think that the power of the technology behind them they're going to utilize that to grow the sport. And by the way, I found out a couple of things that I didn't realize. Did you know that, like, we have an F1 TV premium that we share, Greeny? I'll say it out loud, because you can put up to like 6 devices on it. Well, Apple TV Apple TV lets you share your subscription with up to 5 family members. So that's a nice little head start, right? And and YouTube TV does that too, by the way. But
Mhm.
also, they're going to have those free races, and and this is something I didn't realize, because I've told people the opposite of this, is that it's going to be the F1 TV coverage. Did you know that the strong rumor is that Sky TV coverage is rumored to be an option? So
Yeah.
just like you have with F1 TV right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how the technical parts of this going to work. And that is Apple TV subscribers will be able to access F1 TV Premium. There was Basic, which you didn't get into Live Races. Pro, you had all the races live, and then Premium, which the biggest advantage to Premium was the multiple devices. But you'll be able to access F1 TV Premium as part of their subscription. In other words, I think you use your Apple TV login to actually log into F1 TV Premium as it is today, sort of like that.
Yep.
So that's my prediction on all that, and I hope I'm right, because I'd hate to see us go backwards after such incredible momentum since 2018.
I'll agree with you with one caveat. I think that you're right. I believe that given the tectonic plates that is the TV world worldwide now, with effectively everybody eating everybody, so that we're going to be down eventually to the two rocks, which are Netflix and Apple, because whatever Skydance and CBS and Paramount do, and Discovery and so on and so forth, if you were F1 trying to make a decision for the future for the next 10 years, you couldn't go with CBS or Fox or any of the traditional broadcasters, because you really don't know what the future is and who is actually going to own that conglomerate and what they're about. Whereas with Apple, they've just made the most out of the Apple-made F1 movie, of which there's going to be another. The demographic, the fastest growing demographic, which is 19 to 44-year-old women in America, is absolutely that crowd of Apple. And I just think that, my caveat being that the overall numbers that ESPN were bringing in, which is over 1.2 on average million per race, will probably drop at first. And also, as I've mentioned before, you're not going to get Apple in a bar as you would on ESPN, so you could watch it in a lot more places. But I do think that it's now a niche enough and well-established enough sport whereby it's up there. I just watched Prime Video's NFL game, and it's no hindrance to go there. And if you don't see it there, then you're not missing too much. So I do think with the narrowing of the market, Apple is a huge choice.
Well, and think of the money that Apple has. They can pour whatever amount of money they want. And by the way, if you go to Apple TV now, the F1 movie is, if you're scrolling down Apple TV, it is everywhere. It's like you can't, it leaves the screen as you scroll, and then it pops up again into another category. They are promoting that like crazy. So that's all they have to do for F1 TV.
And think
now.
about this. And if you did something simple with Apple phone, like a competition or a sign up for or a merchandise giveaway, whatever it might be, you instantly have access to billions of people around the world who have Apple phones.
Yeah, it's a crazy advantage, and I think betting against them, and especially combined with Formula One, they are, the technology and the thought that they put into things. It's like F1 TV's had a rough start, but man, it is a great product now. So we shall see. All right, let's get our last break in real quick. We'll be back right after these messages. All right, YouTubers, let's check it out. Let's see. All right, let me scroll back up. Man, these guys are prolific tonight. Hey, David Lawrence is asking us if we'll come on his podcast. I say, what? Sure, I'll do it, David. I don't know when.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll do it, man.
We can take turns if you like.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Take turns. Do you record it on a regular day or anything? Just let us know. Let us know. All right, let's see. Bill Ricker's here. I haven't said hi to Bill. He says MLS on Apple didn't suck, apparently it didn't do well from a rating standpoint. So we'll see. And David says you're in the majority on that, Bill. And then Bill says, having a live-in millennial son-in-law means I don't have to pay for Apple TV, YouTube Premium, Disney Plus. I pay for basic internet and phone. Oh, and he pays for the content on a family plan. Oh, and he can cook. Wow. All right, here we go.
Oh, wow.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. I forgot to tease this story because I teased it at the top of the show, but going into the commercial break, I should have because, Jonathan, we have an American who is kicking butt in the Formula Regional Oceania Championship down in New Zealand.
The only way a New Yorker knows how to. Yep, Ugo Ugochukwu has taken pole position for the first weekend in both Q1 and Q2. He then went on to get runner-up spot to Louis Sharp, the new Kiwi sensation, and then finished off the weekend. They have 4 races. They've changed the format this year to 4 races a weekend, and taken a week off the overall championship, so it's still 15 races. But after weekend 1, Ugochukwu won race 3 and race 4, and he is leading the championship.
Wow, 113 points. He finished second, like you said. He finished 5th in race 2, but then the 2 first. So he's at a 2, a 5, and a 1, and a 1, 113 points. Ahead, the next closest is Jin Nakamura from Japan. He finished 5th, 2nd, 4th, and 2nd.
And I'm really pleased about one thing. We're finally getting hot shoes from Japan. And I think this is a knock-on effect of Sonoda and the reemergence of Super Formula and so on and so forth, that the young Japanese are finally sort of getting into international racing earlier. And both the two you mentioned, Kane and Nakamura, are very good. They look really good and accomplished. It's only weekend 1, but, you know, Ugochukwu is no fool. He's FIA F3. He's already won Macau in 2024. He was a McLaren junior. So there's a lot of eyes been on not only his exotic name, which is, by the way, Nigerian on his mother's side, but he's the real deal. And he's 6'2". He's your size, mate.
Wow. Yeah. I like him too. I was watching some videos and
Yep.
It's funny just to watch Americans in international motorsports because you know there's just not that many, and he just says stuff that we would say, right? And it was great, and I was like, oh, he's very likable, I guess is the best way to put it. So
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of last year's winner Lindblad, and we know what's happened to him. He's now Verstappen's teammate, so he's in the right position. He's a very clean and tidy driver. I noticed that he thanked each of the team members when he got out the car. Yeah, I like his style. I really do. I haven't really seen him up close personally because he's been racing in Europe for so long. But there are other Americans out there. Don't forget Austin's own, Cooper Shipman, making his debut internationally, our F4 champion in America. And I would say pretty well. He had a DNF, but, you know,
race
it
1,
wasn't a major. But he also had a 12th in the last race. And that's a big come forward because he was sort of lingering around 16th or 17th. There's 19 entries. He was on a par with Robin Perra, the 2-time rally world champion.
Yeah.
And I think he's equipping himself well, given that he's only done one FR race going into this international championship, up against the likes of James Wharton, who's now in Formula 2, up against Freddie Slater, who's the big coming Theon McLaughlin, the next Red Bull maestro, and the Japanese we just mentioned. So I think it's and by the way, looking at the times,
They're
is
so close.
between the top 10. It's probably one of the most competitive series I've seen in a while.
I was looking at Cooper specifically. I was looking at his lap time, and I was like, let me see how he's doing. And I was like, oh, wow.
Not far off.
I mean, he was like just a few, like 3 or 4 or 5 tenths off the top.
Yeah, he's less than a second off the top guys who've got huge experience compared to him. So
That's the difference
pretty
right
impressed
there.
with Cooper's progress.
I mean, look.
But also Nolan Alia or whatever is also impressive.
Yeah, he's American, and he's in. Where's he from? Is he from
Detroit.
Detroit? Okay, so he's in 10th in the championship right now.
Yeah.
But just talking about Cooper again, I mean, comparing him to the top guys like Ugo, for example, leading
Yeah.
the he has a fraction of the experience of Ugo, and the fact that his lap
Ugo's
times
been
are
driving these cars for 3 years.
yeah, yep, and Cooper's had one race in those cars.
Yeah, literally, that's his second race. Now,
yeah,
he got a podium in America, but I wouldn't count that. I wouldn't count that against a very strong international field.
yeah. Well, this is going to be fun to watch to see how these guys do. So, all right. So we got a couple more stories I want to talk about, Greeny. Probably the one that this one intrigued me, and I want to talk about this. I'm going to geek out on you a little bit. I just found this story today, so I don't know a ton about it, but there's a new fuel flow technology that's going to monitor the 2026 engines, right? And it is, that has been one of the most important things in Formula One, is being able to measure how much fuel so they can get that right. Well, this new fuel technology measures the fuel 6,000 times per second. And I was like, how in the heck can they do that? And they actually, you guys go Google it, because it's really kind of cool. I'm sure somebody's going to do a good YouTube video on it. But instead of measuring it in a linear line, what they do is they make it in a U shape. So it gives it, I think, because it gives it more time to look at it in some way, because 6,000 times a second. So basically what they're saying is they can be hyper accurate. And they went into lots of discussion. I saw this article on motorsport.com, but there's a few of them out there. But the idea being that it's super accurate, but they said they did lots of anti-hacking and not just hacking, but how teams could find loopholes. Because really, that's the thing about Formula One rules, is finding a loophole, not necessarily cheating, but finding a loophole. And apparently this new fuel mass flow, it's actually an energy sensor is what it is really good at plugging loopholes. Although the only way to find that out is if they actually get through the season and try it. So, hey, another story you put in I want to talk about, Jonathan, is Will Courtenay, the latest in a wave of departures from Red Bull. Wow.
Yeah, what interested me about that, and usually, because I don't know that name that well.
We've had him on the show, believe it or not. Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Chris had him on one time a couple of years ago.
Well, what sparked my interest was it's another defection from Red Bull, which they don't need. But more importantly, this is the head of strategy. And Red Bull have been hugely effective in their strategy, especially Jean-Pierre Lambiase and Verstappen. Yeah. And it seems that this actually might give him a chance to go further up the rank and become more of a strategist rather than a race engineer. But the point is, Courtney's going to Aston Martin, and that's a huge coup. I mean, to McLaren.
Yeah, and it's a huge coup, but another huge dent. And again, this one was not a surprise. I don't want to make it seem like it was a surprise, because it's been planned. It's been in the works. He was supposed to leave either later this year, or early 27. I can't remember, but this is not a surprise, but it's still a big deal. All of the brain drain to leave Red Bull.
Yeah.
So,
that's why I don't see Red Bull dominating, because they've lost so much of their intellectual property in terms of the brain drain.
Well, if David Lawrence is right, think about this. Max Verstappen leaving. We know that Adrian Newey, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and Jonathan Wheatley have all left over the last 12 months. If you now throw in Courtenay and if Max leaves, that would be a staggering departure from a top team. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. So, hey, we're almost out of time. But before we go, I want you guys to mark your calendars. If you like, this is not F1, not even racing, but Ford is talking about a new high-performance sports car debuting on the 15th. So when is that? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. So put that on your calendar.
That's also the Red Bull launch.
Yeah. We got all the launches coming up. They're starting this week. We didn't really get into that, but we'll get into it next week after the launches.
But I think next week's show will be dominated by that launch and whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just thought this
and
was
obviously
interesting.
round 2 of the New Zealand Championship, America leading the way at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, this new Ford, people are speculating everything from a Corvette competitor, because Mustang really is not, to maybe an off-road crazy competitor, like along the Raptor family. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, guys, on YouTube. David, reach out to us on the website, info@speedcitybroadcast.com. And thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.